It's St. Patrick's Day. Well, not today, not yet, but it is coming up soon though, and I am trying 3 vintage recipes for St. Patrick's Day from the 1960s. Before I get started, I'd like to thank Rocket Money for kindly sponsoring a portion of today's video. More on them later. So I found the recipes for today's video in this book, McCall's Worldwide Cooking, and this was originally published in 1965. So I'm starting off with this Irish oatmeal bread. Yeah, I could have made Irish soda bread, but I decided let's go oatmeal. Let's really spice things up. And whoops, one of these, it doesn't say which one. One is the oatmeal bread, and I think it's this one because the oatmeal bread is baked in a loaf pan. Preheating the oven to 350 right now. So in this bowl, I have 3 cups of sifted all-purpose flour. And then to that, I need to add my oats. So this is 1.5 cups of quick oats. So I just need to whisk those guys together. 1.5 tablespoons of baking powder, and then 1 tablespoon of salt. Let's whisk those. And I'm gonna set this aside, get together my wet ingredients. But of course I have another green spring blossom bowl to use. I got my green bowls out just for this video. Yeah, I have, you probably know if you watch, quite a collection of Pyrex bowls, so I have to rotate them in and out. I can't store them all in one place. Beat the egg with the honey and the milk. This is 1/4 cup of honey, and if you don't already know the trick, you probably do, but I'm gonna say it again. You can spray your measuring cup with a little bit of oil or cooking spray, and it helps all of the honey to come out. So if you have something sticky, like Karo or honey, that works well. And then I have 1.5 cups of milk. So I'm just gonna beat that on a low speed. Okay, that didn't take long. Coming back in with my dry ingredients. Sorry. Pour this into that and then stir it with my rainbow heart spatula. It doesn't say you need the rainbow heart spatula, but I like it. I'm just gonna gently mix this, fold it, until it is moistened. It says the mixture is going to be lumpy, but I love warnings like that. Like I'm an anxious person, so I need little reassurances that are like, oh, it's gonna look like this. It might be weird to you, but it will look like this, and that is okay. All right, I'm also gonna grab my loaf pan. So I prepared this ahead of time. I had to grease it very well. These are my favorite loaf pans by USA Pan. I will link this one in the description down below. It's wonderful. I bake all kinds of breads in it, like including yeast breads. So now I need to get this in here into my pan. Smooth that out a bit. That's what it's looking like. I'm gonna bake this for 1 hour and 15 minutes in a 350-degree oven. Of course, I'm gonna keep an eye on it just in case. It could take less time, it could take more time. Just, with any recipe, you just gotta keep an eye on things. Before I get into my next recipe, let's talk about the sponsor of today's video, Rocket Money. If you're like me, you sometimes sign up for free trials of products and services with every intention of canceling after the first month. But then I promptly forget and continue to be charged. Sound familiar? Well, fortunately, today's sponsor, Rocket Money, is here to help. Rocket Money is the personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower your bills, and manage your money better. I just found out I'm being charged monthly for digital access to the New York Times. I probably wanted to read an article and then completely forgot to cancel. And that right there is part of what makes Rocket Money so great. It safely and securely identifies recurring charges and cancels unwanted subscriptions for you. You don't need to make a single customer service call. Rocket Money can cancel right from the app. In fact, they've helped their members save an average of $720 per year. To save more and spend less, join the over 5 million members of Rocket Money today. Go to rocketmoney.com/cookingthebooks or click the link in the description down below to get started today. Thanks again to Rocket Money for sponsoring this portion of the video. To go with my oatmeal bread, I'm making this potato cabbage soup. And the first thing I have to do is cook up some cabbage in a little bit of boiling water. So I need to cover that and then cook it for about 5 minutes. Cabbage is all cooked. I'm adding some melted butter and some potato that I have peeled and shredded. I tried to prep it as close to cooking as possible, but as you can see, it's still kind of got a little rusty looking. It'll be fine. It's just fine. Everything's gonna get pureed actually at the end, spoiler alert. And I've got some flour. Okay, let's get some heat going. So I have to cook this for about 3 or 4 minutes. Hold up, forgot the onion. Gotta put the onion in now too. Didn't get too far into that cooking time. Okay, it's starting to smell really good. And now I have to add salt, pepper, and ground mace, which is not something I normally have. I did have to go buy it, and now I have ground mace. Okay, so I have that. I've got those spices in there, and I have to add milk and water. And I have to bring that to a boil. Soup is boiling, so now I need to lower the heat, cover it, and let it cook for about 20 minutes or until the vegetables are tender. The vegetables are cooked, very tender. You want them to be soft because we're gonna puree this soup. We're gonna blend it. I'm not gonna be using a blender like it says in the book. I'm gonna use, well, I'm using a blender, but it's my immersion blender. I'm not gonna take this and pour it into a blender and come back, you know, and warm it up. This is just easier for me. So if you have an immersion blender, I encourage you to use it. Let's just check and see. I am happy with that texture. I'm not really seeing chunks or anything. So if you have an immersion blender though, it is a lot easier. I do understand that's not what they would have used at this time, but modern conveniences, baby. Just a few more ingredients to go. I have some bacon, some crumbled up, just like chopped crispy bacon, some Parmesan cheese, and then some parsley. So I am gonna stir that together until everything is well combined. I've got my little bowl of soup, my little bit of oatmeal bread. I cut it into a couple pieces just to make it a little bit more manageable. So I'm gonna start with the soup, I think. Main seasonings in here, salt, pepper, mace. I can smell the mace. It actually is quite pleasant. And then like the bacon and the Parmesan, of course, will add some flavor on top of the vegetables. Oh, I really taste the mace. Okay. It wasn't even like a ton in there, but it is like very prominent. It tastes pretty good. It's kind of a mild flavor, but it reminds me of the potato soup that my mom makes, actually. She doesn't usually completely puree hers. There are some chunks of potato in it, but flavor-wise, it's very similar with that milk, flour, bacon, butter, you know, potato, etc. I forgot for a moment, it is cabbage potato soup. I taste more of the potato than the cabbage, and there's a lot more cabbage than there is potato in this. It's pretty tasty. I really like the texture of it. I think I might leave some like chunks of potato in there. I don't know that I would grate it again, but flavor-wise, I really do enjoy it. And I think it is just the right texture. It's like not too gloopy. It's a little bit thick because, you know, you've got your flour in there, but also the pureed vegetables. I like this one a lot. A little bit mild, but that leads me to the oatmeal bread. Now, you couldn't see my face when I was putting together those ingredients, but I assure you my eyebrows were raised at the amount of salt in this recipe. That made me do a little bit of a search because I haven't made Irish oatmeal bread before. So I decided to search for other recipes, especially for like Irish oatmeal quick bread with no yeast in it. None of those recipes had nearly the amount of salt. So I'm like, oh no, what's going on? But I'm thinking like maybe the combination of the bread with the soup would be good because I suspect this is gonna be incredibly salty. Okay, I'm gonna try it on its own. No soup yet. It's pretty salty. Yeah, it's salty, but it's like not unbearable. I like the oatmeal. I love the texture of oatmeal anyway, so I do really like that in there. I'm gonna break a piece off and I'm gonna dip it in the soup. Okay, that is the move. So yeah, I would say like, if you're just itching to make this version of oatmeal bread, Irish oatmeal bread, it's gonna be salty if it's like a standalone thing. But if you serve it alongside this soup, it's kind of a perfect complement. It tastes really good together. This would be such a good like wintry meal. We're having some really unusual weather right now. It's kind of warm. I really love soup and bread together. So good. Now you'll notice I haven't made anything for dessert yet. I really think that this meal needed something green because it's for St. Patrick's Day. That's just me. My favorite color is green. And none of the desserts in this section of the book were green. Then I remembered last St. Patrick's Day, I made these incredible mint Meltaway cookies. They were just, I think I said they were like eating little minty puffs of air. They were light and just kind of like delectable, and they were very delicious if you like mint. And I thought they would be the perfect thing to go with this. I also remembered that when I made that video, I had less than 2,000 subscribers. So, you know, there are probably about 40,000 more of you now, and you maybe haven't seen that video yet. So I'm just gonna drop in some footage from those cookies that I made last year to share with you, and I'll have the recipe for those in the description down below as well. Today is your lucky day because the cookie book is back. This recipe starts with butter, as most good cookie recipes do. I'm cutting this recipe in half, as I often do, but I will include the full recipe in the description down below. And the sugar comes in the form of confectioner sugar. A little different. And then I have some peppermint extract. So the original recipe for this cookie is just like a regular Meltaway cookie, and it includes vanilla. But since we're doing green peppermint Meltaways, I gotta go with my peppermint extract. Oh wow, that is potent. I'm just now realizing that the only liquid in this recipe is the peppermint extract, and possibly the green food coloring I'm going to add later. The butter is like a wet ingredient. This is gonna be interesting. Okay, not so crumbly anymore. This recipe calls for cake flour instead of regular flour. And also just the tiniest, littlest amount of salt goes in. Okay, this has got to get better, right? It feels like I'm making pie crust. I'm not excited about that. Let's put in the food coloring and see how we do. Green. Well, I mean, look, I think if I work it with a spatula, let's go in that direction. The plus side, this kitchen smells like a shamrock shake right now, and I'm okay with that. I get exactly one shamrock shake a year. I had mine last week and it was delicious. The reason I cut this recipe in half is because the recipe says it makes 5 dozen cookies, and I just didn't think I needed that many. But look at this teeny tiny amount of dough in this bowl. Okay, let's scoop some of these babies. It says to drop by teaspoons full. I've got my baby scoop here. These are baby cookies. I guess I could have made a lot more of these. Also, Betty makes a note that these cookies do not spread, so I wouldn't worry too much about spacing them super far apart on the sheets. You too. The dough is a little sticky. These are so cute and small. I think in general, we have gotten so used to gigantic cookies. So when I think 5 dozen cookies, I think like 5 dozen huge cookies, when in reality, 5 dozen of these teeny little things would not be so bad. Cute. The recipe says to bake these for 8 minutes at 400 degrees. These are tiny, like these are itty bitty. So I think I'm gonna check them at about 5 minutes and go from there. It says that the cookies don't spread, they just kind of set, and you don't want them to brown. So these are cute. These are very much cuter than I thought they were going to be. So I'm getting more excited now. I ended up going about 7 minutes with these. I would say just really keep a sharp eye on them. Start with like 5 or 6 minutes. Maybe you need to go the full 8, maybe you don't. You can kind of see, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, you can kind of see they're like browning a little on the bottom and on the top there. It says while they're still warm to dip them in confectioner sugar. I have this like gold sanding sugar that I would like to try and use just to kind of stick with that theme. St. Patrick's Day, green and gold and whatever. First, we gotta get them off the sheets. Oh, that's not bad. They're hot. It's sticking, it's sticking. Would it be better to go in this direction and like sprinkle it? No, no, it would not. I can't decide if I love them or if they look bad. I'm trying different methods here. That's what you have to do sometimes. If you're making a new recipe, you're not really sure about what to do. You've got to try some different things until something works for you. And this is the first time I'm making these. I love the cookie book, but you know, I stick to my old favorites. Don't always try new cookies. I think I love them. I think they're cute. This gold sanding sugar is pretty wonderful, and it is very gold. It is not yellow, and I think I paid $1 for it at Walmart. Well worth the $1. Yeah, look at how dang cute. Take a peek. They're very cute. I think I like them, but they're still very hot. So I'm gonna let these cool for a few minutes and then I will give them a taste. Here we have our cute little plate of cookies. Thought the butterfly gold pattern went well with that gold sanding sugar. These are petite. They smell pepperminty. These are still just like slightly warm, but I kind of couldn't wait to give them a try. So here goes. They really do just kind of like melt away. It's like biting into a little minty puff of air, basically. Sandy in a good way. These are delightful little cookies. I do like them. I could see how you could put away quite a few of these because they feel kind of like you're eating nothing, but you're definitely eating something because there's a lot of butter in these. If you have the cookie book, if you have the Betty Crocker cookie book, this recipe is on page 113. And you can see here, they have a number of variations. The original Meltaway recipe is up here. I made the green peppermint Meltaways, but they also have party Meltaway cookies, almond Meltaway cookies, nut Meltaway, spice Meltaway, orange Meltaway. So you could make any one of these combinations. You could probably come up with your own depending on what kind of flavorings and toppings you use. These are very versatile and I really do enjoy them. McCall's Worldwide Cooking was published in 1965, and this is part of a series that McCall's had. I have some of them. I don't have all of them, but I did grab a few just to share with you. You can even see, I don't know if it'll show up in the camera. There's like a little number in the corner of each one so you know which one you have. McCall's Company Cookbook, McCall's Book of Merry Eating, McCall's Cookie Collection, McCall's Show Off Cookbook. I have a few more of these. I don't have a complete set. I believe that you could also get like a little, sort of like a holder for them. These are kind of like a little bit smaller than magazine sized, and they do kind of look like magazines, don't they? With the name of the publication and then, you know, these little headlines basically. I mixed my cookbook in with these one moment. There we go. My parents actually are the ones who found me most of these. My mom and dad they have like the best thrifting look ever. So my mom got me a whole stack of these for like $0.05 a piece or something like that. They're in great shape. This is part of the McCall's Cookbook collection. This is number 12 in the collection. This book has amazing illustrations. Just gonna say that right off the bat. Look at that. Can you believe? It looks like a block print to me. It could very well be that. Oh, more. Even more. And I love the colors. I just love the color schemes that they use in here. A lot of different types of cuisine are covered in this too. I was trying to plan, you know, a St. Patrick's Day menu of some kind. I really couldn't find a lot. It's kind of like Valentine's Day in that, you know, maybe if a cookbook has a section on specifically St. Patrick's Day, it doesn't have like a ton of recipes in it, or there's something like shamrock shaped cutout cookies or something like that. And that's when I pulled this one out and I was like, wait a minute, Worldwide Cooking, there's probably a little section on Ireland in here, and I was right. I wouldn't say it had like a super robust chapter or anything. It's not like an entire cookbook of Irish cooking, but it was enough for me. You know, it had some main dishes and some different things that I could kind of pull something together that was really good. And then I added those, I just added those little mint Meltaway cookies as an added bonus. I hope you liked that. That recipe, of course, was from Betty Crocker's Cookie Book. If you have that book, the Meltaway recipes in there, you can, you know, vary the flavors and whatnot. Other recipes in this chapter, besides the soup and the Irish oatmeal bread, of course, they have Irish soda bread, Irish stew, rabbit with Irish bacon, bass with Aran sauce. They have boxty, they have colcannon. I almost thought of making that, but I really wanted to try the soup. There's also a deep dish plum pie, steamed raisin pudding with Irish whiskey sauce. That was kind of more than I was finding in some of the other books in my collection. So one thing I do want to reiterate here, I've said this in past videos, I do not create these recipes. I hope that is, I mean, I pull them from vintage cookbooks. I didn't create the recipes. I didn't name the recipes. I try to give full credit to whatever book or person or whatever made these recipes. If you think that something I made should not be named what it is named in the cookbook, that is not on me. Usually I am aware that maybe that dish is known by multiple names or another name, or maybe it doesn't completely, you know, the name doesn't completely accurately reflect what it is. So I just wanted to remind you of that because sometimes I get a little snark in the comments. So anyway, besides Ireland, we have recipes from England, India, Mexico, China, the Middle East, Japan, Scandinavia, Spain. This covers a lot of ground, I think, especially for 1965. Like I do have some cuisine specific cookbooks from like the 60s and 70s, but I feel like there's maybe not as many. Some of the ingredients, depending on what region you're cooking from, may have been a little bit difficult to get a hold of. You probably, if you made some of these, were probably viewed as a pretty adventurous cook, and maybe your family or your guests, maybe they would be labeled as like very adventurous eaters. Let's see what else I can show you. This is from the chapter on Mexico. These are beef enchiladas. I showed you the picture of the breads, but there we have it again. This is from the German chapter. Looks like we've got sauerbraten. These kind of look like the dumplings that we would make when I was a kid, like when we would have kielbasa and sauerkraut together. Does it say? Yeah, they're potato dumplings. Okay, that makes sense. I was right. They were dumplings because that's exactly what they look like. Oh, this is French onion soup. Honestly, doesn't really look like a lot of the French onion soups that I have seen, but it still looks delicious. So let's talk a little bit about the dishes I prepared today. The potato cabbage soup, I enjoyed that so much. It was definitely like an old-fashioned kind of soup. You know, it's not like a heavy, cheesy potato soup. There was a little bit of cheese in it, Parmesan, but it wasn't like, you know, baked potato soup or anything like that. It reminded me so much of the potato soup that my mom made a lot when I was growing up. I'm sure she still makes it. It's like a smoother soup. The thickness of it is really good. It's not too watery, but it's also not like glue. It's not gluey. It's just right. That amount of butter and flour combined with pureeing the vegetables just made for a really pleasant texture. I think that tasted really good. I was a little bit worried that the flavor, like maybe it wouldn't have as much flavor just because, I don't know, it seems like potatoes kind of plain. Cabbage, maybe possibly a little bit plain. There's no like chicken stock or anything in it either. But the combination of everything, you know, once you've got all of your seasonings in there and you've got the bacon and that little bit of Parmesan cheese and the parsley, like everything just kind of comes together and it makes a really delicious soup. I would make that one again. Totally. I recommend it. But like I said, please keep in mind, it's not going to be like that cheesy potato bacon kind of soup. It's a purely, I keep saying potato. I mean, I know it's potato cabbage, but like I don't taste a lot of the cabbage. It's not like super evident that it's in there. It's like mostly potato, onion, bacon that I'm kind of tasting. It's a very good soup. I really liked it. So the Irish oatmeal bread, it tasted really good with the soup. I don't know that I would make that one again just because that recipe is so different from everything else that I was finding. You know, I have it, so I'm going to eat it, but I just feel like if you want to make that type of bread, like maybe this is not the right recipe to follow. The texture was nice. I really love oatmeal. I love oats. So I liked the texture of those. I'm going to be honest. It didn't taste bad or anything. Again, it's going to get eaten, but I just feel like there are other types of things, like types of breads you can make that would pair really well with this soup as well. If you want to try it, I of course am going to include the recipe in the description down below, but it's probably not something that's going to be on my list again. I'll talk a little bit about those Meltaway cookies. Those are so delightful. I love those Meltaway cookies. Like I said, they're like minty puffs of air, very light, very dainty. You could do a lot with them. I think if you wanted to make just like the sort of like general Meltaway cookie dough, you could dye that a bunch of different springtime colors. You know, I did green because they were minty and it was St. Patrick's Day. But I think if you wanted to do like pink and yellow and orange and blue and green, like those would be so cute for Easter. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think that would be a great thing to do. And you can flavor those any number of ways depending on what kind of like flavorings and extracts that you have or that you want to use. I love those cookies so much and I was happy to share them with you again. I'd like to once again thank Rocket Money for sponsoring a portion of this video. Go to rocketmoney.com/cookingthebooks to get started for free. If you love cookbooks and recipes from the 1960s, I have an entire playlist and I'll link it in the description down below. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.